So we're here to discuss some issue which usually is always confronting women. The subject of childbirth is not an easy process to go through. And for many women, they have to endure many complications before they give birth. Well, that is even if they give birth. And some of those complications could be so dire, they result in some permanent injuries to the mother or the unborn, and sometimes some fatalities. Well, let's look at this very subject of obstetric fistula. Fistula is an issue which has confronted women over the ages, but modern technology and also modern medical treatment has given some assurances that it could be a lot more preventable, but could also be managed in many ways. And one facility that is doing that very good is the Mercy Women's Catholic Hospital in Mankasim in the Central Region. But just like the other medical facility that have to deal with the issue, the subject of how they affect the infant, they also tend to affect the mother, is an issue that they have to deal with. Well, we're here to discuss obstetric fistula. Doctors need to manage the condition and how also the victims are going through the current situations. We have in the studio Dr. Felix Bowo. He is the medical officer for the Mercy Women's Catholic Hospital in Mankasim in the Central Region. And he's here with one of his patients, and Hannah Saki is with us. Thank you. Hannah, how are you?
I'm fine.
And you too, Dr. Bowo. How are you?
I'm doing
great. But how many people get plagued with this very problem? Obstetric fistula annually in Ghana?
Yes, annually we see about 200 cases.
In your facility?
No, nationwide. 200 cases. People who develop the cases, about 200 of them. Yeah, but then in Sub-Saharan Africa, it's about 2 million people have it.
It means it's not widespread?
No, it is. I mean, if you look at the figure, it might sound very small, but if you take an individual, the problems they go through, it's huge for them.
Okay, now let's talk on the main subject, obstetric fistula. What leads to fistula in the first place?
Yes, let me start by saying that today is 23rd May, and the UN from 2014 set aside this day as an international day to end obstetric fistula. That's why we are here today, basically, not any other day but 23rd May. So worldwide, all the members of UN recognize this day as an international day to end obstetric fistula. So not only here, but in other countries, they are doing similar things. Good, so back to your question, obstetric fistula. A fistula medically is an abnormal opening between two organs or structures. So they're not supposed to be communicating, but some way, somehow, something happens and then they communicate. And then bring it down to obstetric fistula. What it means is that this type of fistula happens to women out of childbirth, so that there's an abnormal connection or communication between the birth canal, which is the vagina, and then the bladder, which is supposed to keep urine. So then, instead of urine passing through the bladder to the urethra out, the urine leaks through the vagina. And also there could be a communication between the birth canal, which is the vagina, and in the rectum. So in that instance, they'll be passing fecal matter to the vagina, which shouldn't be. So basically that is a description of what obstetric fistula is about.
How dangerous is it? Or how uncomfortable is it?
Yes, it is very uncomfortable, in that even to develop the condition, you go through a lot of pains. Yes, because like I said, it occurs out of childbirth, during labor or during delivery, where a woman is in labor for a long time. That's when we say you have a prolonged labor, or the labor is obstructed. Then with this, there's a lot of pressure on the organs in the pelvis. So with every push, the head comes, goes back, head comes, goes back. There's some sort of erosion on the structures there, and that causes that opening. So even to get the condition, you go through a lot of pain. If you've ever seen a woman in labor, you can understand what it is. Then afterwards, some lose their babies in the process, which is also very painful, because to go through a labor for 4 days, 5 days, you end up losing the baby. And then you get this condition on top of it, which, like I said, for a woman to be passing urine or fecal matter through the vagina is very unbearable for them. So it's a huge problem for them, and then they're stigmatized. They're not allowed to mingle with their peers. If you're a market seller, nobody would like to buy from someone leaking urine. Yes, so you lose their job. And the worst of it, the husbands, they'll leave them for obvious reasons. Because they feel, they can't make up with you again, and for that reason, they divorce them. So it's a huge burden for them. And then some also attack it to spiritual causes. So then
some superstition.
Exactly. So they feel there's no hope for them. So like I said, to the individual, it's a big problem. Yes, because they go through a lot of stress, even to get the condition. Then afterwards, they have to go through all these embarrassments and all that.
But and for Hannah, what condition did she go through? What situation did she go through? I know she went through obstetric fistula.
Yes, maybe she can explain it better herself, but it was through childbirth that.
Okay. Hannah, how did you feel going through this? Not necessarily how, because we know what the condition. How did you feel? How painful was it for you?
I can't go with my friends. When I'm going with them, I will see that I'm not comfortable. Everything is not going well, so I'll stay in the house for a while. So that when they go, they will come and tell me what is going on.
And for somebody who was young and because of childbirth, your friends, did they stigmatize you? Did they think that, well, we didn't need to move out with you because maybe you're this or that?
I did not tell anybody.
You just kept it to yourself?
Yes. If you tell them, they will laugh at you. They will tell you that don't come near us because you are leaking, so don't come near us. So I did not tell anybody. I keep it secretly.
Well, we have an educative video on this very subject. Let's watch it. When we come back, we'll take some lessons from this very video, and then we'll get a lot more education from Dr. Bowo on this very subject of how, it is like perhaps having all that going through your womanhood, etc., and how you have to manage it, essentially in the hospital and also at home.
Obstetric fistula is described as one of the most devastating consequences of unequal access to health care during pregnancy and childbirth. In areas with high maternal mortality, fistula may occur at a rate of 2 to 3 cases per 1,000 pregnancies. Although the magnitude of obstetric fistula in Ghana is not quite known, the prevalence alone highlights the persistence of global inequalities in access to health care and basic human rights. Most women who develop obstetric fistula, which is a hole in the birth canal, usually caused by prolonged obstructed labor, remain untreated for their entire lives. The conditions can equally reoccur in women and girls whose obstetric fistula has been surgically treated but who receive little or no medical follow-up and then become pregnant again. The victims of obstetric fistula are women and girls, usually poor, often illiterate, who have limited access to health services, including maternal and reproductive health care. In Ghana, obstetric fistula has been found to be more prominent among communities in the northern, upper west and upper east regions, but dotted throughout the country. Some health facilities that undertake fistula repairs include Kolebu Teaching Hospital in Accra and the 3 regional hospitals in the upper east, west and northern regions, among a few others. The Mercy Women's Catholic Hospital, located at Dumaze in Mankasim in the central region, is one of such centers. As an obstetric fistula center and a primate health care facility, the hospital was set up in response to the high incidence of teenage pregnancy, maternal and child morbidity in the region. Dr. Ganyaglu, a specialist from the Kolebu Teaching Hospital in Accra, supports the Mercy Women's Catholic Hospital in treating fistula cases.
So fistula, as we all know, it's an abnormal communication between the urinary reservoir or the reservoir for urine and then the birth canal and then the back passage. And this abnormal communication often occurs when labor becomes obstructed, sometimes lasting more than 2 days. And then this fistula develops. The only way to remedy the situation is to have fistula repair, and thanks to Mercy Women's Hospital, they have a fistula center which is well equipped with a total bed capacity of about 40 and allows us to do big volumes in a short period.
These are some of the few women who for years have been battling the horrifying conditions of obstetric fistula. Today, they are happy they have undergone surgery.
I'm from Upper West.
How long have you had this for?
7 years.
And how did you get to know this place?
I give a birth to a child. Through that, I get a sickness.
So people around you, how did they take you in your condition? Did they still accept you, or how did they treat you?
Well, my brothers are there. My brothers are there, and they are taking care about me. This is December that my mother have died. So my brothers are still there, and they have been taking care about me.
So since you came, have you had surgery done?
Yes.
And how are you feeling now?
So now I get something better than the first time.
So this is your second time coming?
Yes.
So
after delivery, I fell sick and had to be rushed to the hospital. It was during this period that doctor told me of the condition. It's been very difficult for me. I'm happy that I've been treated freely.
For 6 years, the Mercy Women's Catholic Hospital has successfully conducted 145 obstetric fistula cases, with 215 still on the waiting list. These free surgeries are made possible through the support of the Archdiocese of Cape Coast Health Directorate, the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection, the Ghana Health Service, the UNFPA, and the National Fistula Task Force.
So it means that you have to go through surgery, Dr. Bowo?
Yes, definitely.
You have to go through surgery?
Yes.
How complicated is it from the time that you tend to have the difficulties and then you have to go through surgery? How complicated is it?
Yes, it is. And most often it depends on how long it takes before they go through the surgery. Now, because they are always leaking the urine. Now, what happens is that it's like you have a tap in your house and then the pipe behind the house gets burst. So you don't get to control the tap flow, but that one is always flowing continuously, but there's no control. That's what happens when they develop fistula. So there's always fecal matter or urine in the vagina, and that makes the vagina very tenuous, become something like stiff, not flexible again. So those who engage in sex will have a lot of pains in that. And with these two, they have a lot of infections of the kidneys. And if it goes on for long, then the kidneys can fail. You can get chronic kidney disease and have to go on dialysis. And also, you know, there's ammonia in the urine. It causes a lot of dermatitis, a lot of inflammation in the pelvic region. So those who have had it for a long time, they have a lot of skin lesions around their genital area. Good. Now, because of the stigmatization, most of the women are not able to come up with the condition they have. A patient can come to you in the hospital with a cough, but they have a fistula, they wouldn't mention it, because they feel there's no hope for them, or it's a case, or something of that sort. To the surgery, it depends on the type or the severity. You have the simple type and the complex type. Some can take between 20 to 30 minutes to be repaired, and some can take up to 4 hours. Now, again, depending on where it is, you could either go through the vagina and repair it, which is much easier, or sometimes you have to open them up through the abdomen to repair. And those are the ones that will have to stay in hospital for a long time, with a minimum of 14 days. So between 14 to 21 days, you are at the facility and you are being taken care of. So it's a huge burden for them, like I said, from the time they are going through labor, between the time they're not repaired and after the repair.
If you read the existing literature, you get to find that sometimes even women leaders in communities, in the traditional communities, even tend to look down on some of the women who even become victims, etc. That even leads me to you, Hannah. Were you feeling that you had a certain complex, that perhaps this was brought onto you because you had difficulties at home, or you thought God didn't like you, or perhaps you were very superstitious about it? Were you very superstitious about it?
I thought it's a spiritual, so I was praying over it every day, going to church, praying. So one day I wake up in the morning and tell my mother that, Ma, this thing is not a spiritual, so we should find solution for it. So where I went to for the surgery, they gave me letter to go to Mankesim. The letter got lost. So I remember that the doctor told me that I should go to Mankesim. So that's where I remember the name Mankesim. So when I reached Mankesim, I asked Women Hospital, and the driver took me to that place.
Wow. And when it happens to you, you can walk normal? You can do everything. You're not sick, but it's only that down under you have difficulties.
Yes.
How would you be feeling at the time? Personally, how were you feeling? Were you having pains in there? Or
I'm not feeling well, and I got rashes
around your genitals.
Yes.
Wow.
I'm not feeling well. I'm not comfortable. I cry every day. Every day.
And this was after the childbirth?
Yes, after.
And you had to take care of the younger one too, the child, and at the same time you had to go through this. How did your mom relate to you on this?
Oh, she's happy. She did not ignore me. Was telling me something that will encourage me. So that's.
Well, that's awesome. But at least you didn't get your community members getting to know. So they didn't know. Do you know anybody in your community who also got infected, or somebody in the next community?
Yes. I told the person to go to that place.
The women's hospital?
Yes. So the person is cured.
Wow. But it means that it's not superstitious after all. But how then do you have to purge people's minds that what they're having is not a superstition when they've gone through various rituals or through various places, churches, traditional herbalists, etc. And then you, an orthodox person, will have to tell them, medical practitioner will have to tell them it's not superstition. How do you get to convince them about it?
Yes, it's difficult. But what we try to do is to use those that have had a repair. So if somebody comes, like Hannah's case, for instance, she has gotten the repair. It's easier for her to convince somebody who has it. Well, they know themselves. So if one goes out and comes out dry, goes to the facility, and by the time she comes, the condition is cured, it's easier for them to be convinced, even than we, the health professionals, going to them, telling them, come to us, we can help you, blah, blah, blah. They understand their peers or their colleagues more than us. So we are developing this system where we want to use those who have been cured in order to recruit most of them. And that notwithstanding, we are also relying on the health professionals in the chief's compound, the health facility, to also tell them about the fact that there's cure for it. The other reason is, apart from the superstition, they also feel there's no cure. Because they will go to the hospital, they will mention it, and then because we don't have a lot of specialists in that field, they might tell you there's no hope for you. Okay. But then if they know that there's a place where they can go and then they will get the cure, then they will come. So apart from the superstition, I think the availability of the service to repair them, it's sometimes
at the health facility.
Yes, at the health facility level, sometimes also drives some of them away. Yeah.
At the Mercy Women's Catholic Hospital, how do you do it? Especially once I know it's a catchment area. Let's say 20 minutes away from Cape Coast, and just around you, you have other communities, Sachri, Swisha, and all that. How do you go about the treatment levels, do you get some kind of assistance at the facility, and so perhaps you undertake kind of annual surgeries, etc.? How do you go about it?
Yeah, the whole process starts with what we call mobilization, where we try to recruit the patients or the clients, those who have the condition. And with that, we have an outreach team that goes to the communities. So they go to churches, they go to mosques when there are festivals, they go there to talk about obstetric fistula. And then also, after a repair, so if Hannah is from Senior, for instance, we will engage her to organize something like a mini DEBA in the area, so that the outreach team will then go and then give a talk on the condition. And then also we get referrals from, like she was referred from another health facility, we get referrals from there. Then the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection, they are doing a lot of work up north, where the incidence there is also very high. So they have their regional and their district reps who also go around to recruit or to mobilize these fistula patients and bring them down from the 3 northern regions to Mankisim for them to repair. So basically we rely on the outreaches, there's some few referrals here and there, and then the Ministry of Gender recruiting patients or the clients from the 3 northern regions and some parts of Volta region. So this is how we get to mobilize the patients.
Annually, how many women do you treat at the hospital with this very problem?
Yes, it varies. Last year, 2015, we couldn't do much. We repaired only 29 cases. Then in 2014, we were able to do 109. It was quite huge. And then the reason is that if you realize most of these people who develop the condition are poor, so they can't afford it themselves. Everything has to be sponsored or has to be paid for. So as and when the facility is able to raise funds for them, then they come in for the repair. This year so far, we've been able to repair 44 of them, and we are hoping that by the end of the year we could clock more than 100. We'll be very happy if you're able to do that. Because when they come over, everything is catered for. They don't buy anything. Their accommodation, their feeding, their surgery, the pampers, the diapers they wear, everything is catered for the 21 days or 14 days that they will be at the facility. And the gender ministry has come in to support these women. And even when they are going home, they have a social reintegration package they give them, because some of them would have lost their jobs and order something to help them start life afresh. Yeah, so because of the financial difficulties, it's difficult having a lot of cases to be done. As of now, we have a backlog for our facility of about 200 cases that are supposed to be repaired.
Meaning what? You haven't gotten the funding for them?
Exactly, yes.
So they're just waiting in line? You've become like the Kolebu of fistula?
Yeah, so as and when the funds are available, then they are called in to come for the fellowship. Because even their transport to come, sometimes you have to do more mobile money for them.
Is it because they're coming from faraway communities?
Yes, that's one reason. And the other reason, they are basically poor. They don't have any livelihood. So most of them are from very poor homes, and then they can't afford even transport from, say, Wa to Mankisim. It's quite expensive. And that money can take care of her for a month or two. So to use that for transport alone, she wouldn't. So there are situations where we have to send the person mobile money to use for transport to Mankisim, so that she... So
Hannah is one of the women who have gone through this, and she serves as an ambassador for you?
Yes.
Okay, so do you engage people or women who have gone through this, and so what do you tell them?
I tell them that there's a cure, and they can help you everything that you need. Everything, they will provide you everything. So they should not be afraid. There's a cure there.
Do you go to communities? And which communities do you go to? Are they only the communities in the central region?
Senior Breku.
Usually, we are community, Senior Breku.
Yeah.
Do the women that you interact with, what are their experiences? Are their experiences different from you? Because you seem to have gotten the assistance from your mother. Your partner also was very much aware of it. So,
the one that I told him to go to the Mankisim, he was having it almost 33 years.
What?
33 years. So it's painful. This thing is painful.
And then there are some too who have it sometime longer, not necessarily 33 years. And they are keeping it.
Because they don't know anybody to tell them that this thing, they have cure there. So they are keeping it. They are keeping it on themselves.
Practically, how is it? You have gone through it. He's explaining with English, but practically, how is it like? Your genitals, you say you experience rationing thing, but I'm saying that generally, practically, how would it be? You'll be having urine through your genitals?
Yes.
Urine?
Yeah.
And then sometimes fecal matter, like...
mine, there's no fecal.
Okay, only urine.
Urine. Leakages.
Leakages. Okay.
When you are going to urinate, you get it. You know that you want to urinate, but after urinating, you see leakages.
It's still dropping.
When you sleep, you see your bed will be wet. So you must put something there so that it will not be wet.
Is it possible, for many of the testimonies that we tend to hear on the church programs, there could be fistula and we didn't know?
Yes, definitely. It could be. Well, like you said, most of them think there's no cure, so they wouldn't even come to the hospital. But because of the superstitious nature of it, they will end up at the prayer camps, the prayer centers for help, which they wouldn't get, because practically it's a surgical procedure. You need to, prayers, medications wouldn't help. You need to go under the knife to get cure. Yes, so that's why we are creating the awareness for people to be.
Do you have partners who help you? Because we have to wrap up on this very discussion. Do you have partners who help you at the Mercy Women's Catholic Hospital?
Yes, we have. To start with, I must say the staff of the facility are very helpful. And then each and every one there is into fistula. They are all ever ready to help. And then we have a fistula specialist team led by Prof. Lassie from the Kolebu Teaching Hospital.
Professor Lassie?
Yes, he's the head of the team, Dr. Samba, Dr. Karim, Dr. Ganyaglo. So they come to the surgeries for free at no cost. Yes, because they know the kind of patients they are dealing with. To really provide their accommodation and feeding. They will come from Accra, sleep over weekends, and do the surgeries for free. Then also, like I mentioned, the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection, led by Nana Oyelita, she has been very helpful in mobilizing funds to pay for their transportation, their feeding, and the complete cost of the program. And most of them are, I think all of them are registered on the LEAP program after the surgery, and then they are giving some little token as a social reintegration program. So they've also been very helpful. And then there's the Queen Mother of Marketing to Nana Emisa, who has been very helpful, especially in the mobilization aspect. She goes to the villages, and anytime she gets a patient, she'll put a call. This patient is there, so we put on the waiting list, as and when there's funds, the person comes. Then there's a National Fistula Task Force, which is also involved in mobilizing and also raising funds for the patients. Then UNFPA, United Nations Population Fund, they actually supplied us with medical equipment and surgical instruments that are meant specifically to be used for fistula repairs. So they've also been very helpful. In fact, they have been championing fistula repairs in this country and in other parts of Africa. So they've also been very helpful to us. I must say the center there at Mankesim is the largest in Sub-Saharan Africa, the largest fistula center. It's a 45-bed capacity unit with its own OPD, lab, pharmacy, a theater. It's a full complex on its own. Yeah, because of lack of funds, most of the times it's there without no activity. Yeah, so if there's no cases going on, the place is dormant. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. And Hannah, thank you also. I understand you want to be a nurse in the future. I wish you all the best. And I'll find some time. We'll come and visit you with the whole team. I'm sure your birthday will bring you a cake. Okay, Hannah Saki, patient of obstetric fistula, has been with us. And thank you very much, Hannah. The World UN Day for this very condition, and we thank the team at the hospital for all the great work they are doing. We have to take a break. When we come back, we'll have a lot more for you.